Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you all to the Friday, March 28th edition of Speaker Co-working, sponsored by SpeakerHub. I'm Ron Story. I am the uh, head of speaker booking, head of membership, basically the person at SpeakerHub who makes a lot of the decisions and guides in the direction of the company. This call is where we answer questions that you have about getting booked on more stages, and we help you to get booked on more stages by doing more outreach, building your own internal systems for building the business, and getting paid more for the work that you do. In the past, we focused primarily on helping people to get on more stages and potentially negotiate higher fees. But the industry is changing. So we believe we have to change with the industry so that those who can still get the high fees, they still should. But those who may not be as famous or may not have as much experience, they should still get paid for their knowledge and intellectual property also, even if it's in an unconventional way. So what we normally do here is we answer a bunch of questions, let you all ask whatever questions you have, and then I have um, a lesson that I normally want to teach on a daily basis. And so we usually start off with a few wins so that we um, can get the ball rolling. And then we go from there. Valencia is on camera today. Is she back on camera? Right? Limitless
Yes.
living. I like that. Um, so any updates, any things to celebrate up to this point? Any more bookings, podcasts? I got one. I'll celebrate. Uh, November the something. I can't remember the date, but I'll be speaking at PromptCon, which is the AI conference, talking about the uses of AI in software and some of the innovations that we made here at SpeakerHub. So I think it's important for people to understand the relationship between the date of when this was booked and when the actual conference is coming up. We talk about 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 quarters. 2 weeks is when you can get booked on a podcast. Usually, 2 months is how long it takes to get booked at an association, and 2 quarters is how long it usually takes for or how far ahead a conference is booking. So just another example of it. 2 quarters out in the end of November, I will be speaking at PromptCon. Um, so yeah, that's my celebration. I think I got a couple other podcasts that I have booked also. So I've been pitching too. So don't, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. I'm like, oh, well, the data isn't working. Nope. How did you get booked, Ron? How did you get on these things? So I'm walking it like I talk it. But there it is. Any other wins besides that?
Well, I got my first booking using the survey.
How cool is that? How did it go? What'd you learn? Let's talk about it.
No, well, I haven't done the survey. I just booked it. Like I just
Okay.
pitched. I pitched. And
And
so,
somebody said, yeah, based on
yeah, someone
cool.
said yeah. So it's tomorrow. So
Look, that's where you start. How many people did you ask though?
I did five.
You asked 5 people,
Yes.
and one said yes, and the other
One.
one said no.
Well, they haven't said anything. These are
Okay,
people that I don't know, though. It was cold.
okay. No, take out your phone. Don't start the hard way.
Okay.
Take out your phone and reach out to people you know. You're not trying to sell them anything, right?
Okay.
Again, this isn't a sales meeting, right? It's not a sales meeting. It is a way for you to capture data from people in your target audience. If it's not someone you see yourself working with, then don't ask them. But if they're in the audience that you would probably want to work with, ask them to complete the survey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Rebecca, good to see you. Rebecca Snyder, what up? You want to introduce yourself? Welcome to
Sure.
Speaker Co-working.
Thank you. Excited to be here. My name's Rebecca Snyder. I am with Executive Alliance, which is a collection of professional women leaders in Maryland, and we are working as an agency with SpeakerHub, and wanted to learn about how to pitch and make sure I can communicate that appropriately to our members. So,
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
perfect. No, thanks for coming. So Rebecca is one of our agencies. Not only do they have an agency inside of the regular Speaker Hub, but they're using Speaker Hub Pro for as an agency product for their clients also. Uh, they offer different pitching services and things of that sort. So that's a pretty cool thing. They're using our new feature of Teams and uh, workspaces in order to accomplish this. So, any other questions or wins up to this point? All right, cool. So let me answer Rebecca's question, and then after I answer her question, I'm going to finish up our topic for the week. So Rebecca, can you do me a favor? Can you go ahead and log into your Speaker Hub Pro and share your screen?
Sure thing. Okay, so here I am, screen two. All right, so I'm here
Yep.
and
So let's one of the cool things is that on this basic page here, you can always find videos on how to do different things, right? So are you looking to pitch for yourself or pitch for someone on your team?
well, I was going to test it to pitch for myself, and
Yeah.
then we're doing a four-part start speaker series, and so I have to train others how to use it. So I wanted to
Yep.
dabble a little bit to make sure I wasn't speaking out of school. And
Yep.
the videos
Perfect.
have been extraordinarily helpful, but I felt like getting a little online, real knowledge would be helpful.
Yep. That's perfect. So if you click on the left, there's a thing called branding kit in the
Hmm.
menu at the top.
So sorry, that was my camera just falling.
Oh no, we didn't even hear it. Right.
All right. So branding kit, here we are.
Right. So in branding kit, you can see it says my brand. Go ahead and click there. And what this does, this is where you or someone on your team or every other user, they can adjust their bio, their speaking topics, things of that sort. So if there
And
are other topics you want to add in there next to women's leadership, leadership development, you can always type those in and it will inform us on other suggestions to make. So you're
okay.
not limited to those. You can, just click in that box and type in basketball. No, just type in something. The words don't have to be in the thing. Just type in basketball and hit enter. There it is,
Okay.
right? You can add your own keywords. We just give you that list as a way to give some suggestions. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yep, that's perfect.
Right. So then yep, perfect. So you know how to do that. So if you scroll down a little bit more, this is where you can get a bit more in detailed about what you do. So that how do I help is probably the most important 1 to 2 sentences that you will put in because that directs everything else. So I help basketball players to become more flexible by doing late night Pilates and eating shawarma, right? So the more detailed I can be, the better prepared the AI is. AI is garbage in, garbage out, right? So a lot of people say, "Well, I help leaders become better." Well, that ain't really that's going to make the AI hallucinate a bit, right? But if you could talk about your own frameworks and all of those things, it makes it a lot more clear. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So that's what you're dealing with here. Everything that you put down at the bottom where it says LinkedIn, your website, your speaker up profile, in the media, if you put a link to your speaker reel, that's going to show up in the signature automatically at the end of your pitch. The phone
And
number, all of those things. Does that make sense?
it does. And I have one small question because I'm building a team here, and as I've invited people to the team, um, I'm allowing them to create their own branding kits so they can come and do this
Yep,
for.
on their own. Yep, I'm walking you through it so that you can tell them
Okay.
what it stands for. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you would put in your speaker up profile, your YouTube link, or whatever over on the left. And then that'll automatically get added to the signature. Got it?
Hmm.
So let's
Yep.
scroll up to the top and hit save. All right, now let's go all the way back down to the bottom. Some people won't like using the AI, so they can turn it off. You see that?
Okay.
Or if they want to make it default medium or default long messaging, they can change the tone and the messaging length right there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep. Okay.
So now, based on what you've put in, if you just click on podcast on the left, our system is automatically matching you with Women's Empowerment Podcast because that was one of your things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's click on one of them. Click on a podcast that looks interesting. Click on the title.
Oh, on the title. Okay.
So that brings up the podcast where they can listen to it before they decide if they want to add it to a list that they want to reach out to. So you can listen to the podcast, learn more about it, read about it, do everything. And if it's one that you feel you want to reach out to, that's where you add it to a list.
Okay.
So go
All
ahead
right.
and add that to a list.
And so I just go here, add to list. Now
Yep.
I was experimenting and I created a list.
Yep, that's
Are
fine.
these, and this is all exclusive to me, or is this part of my team? Is
No,
everyone?
this is everything you see in your workspace is yours,
Okay.
right? Now, here's the great thing. When you go ahead and add it to the careers list and hit save, right? So now when someone on your team, if someone on your team is pitching for you, it's going to say, this is already on Melissa's list.
Okay.
So that they know, like, hey, if I'm pitching on behalf of Melissa as her assistant, that she's already reached out to them. That doesn't mean that I can't reach out to them for myself. But if I'm pitching for Melissa, I don't want her to send the same pitch that she may have already sent. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, that's perfect.
Right? So now you just click the orange pitch button. So the AI is looking at your profile, it's looking at the podcast, and it came up with that short pitch for you.
I love that. Okay. And so I can change bits of
Yep,
this.
you can edit whatever you want to make it your own, and then you scroll down to the bottom. If you don't like what the AI wrote, you can rewrite, or you can go ahead and click send. It's up
Okay.
to you. That's all. There's nothing else to do. That's all it is to send a pitch.
I'm gonna send it just to be fun. Now, does this note come out? Oh,
That's a disclaimer for you to read it before you send it.
All right, I'm gonna send it because it sounds great.
Push it.
And
Your house won't explode, I promise. There it is. You sent your first pitch.
love it. Okay.
So in 24 hours, it'll allow you to send a follow-up. You can also put in notes. You see it says new note. So
Oh.
if you hear back, you can put, hey, I followed up with Cardis. He said I would be, a great guest in July or whatever, right?
Okay. All right,
Make
that's
sense?
great. And
So click over on mailbox
I'm sorry, where's the mailbox?
on the left.
Oh gosh, sorry, thanks, the mailbox.
So now you can see you have 3 that are waiting and then 1 that you've already sent.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I can go back and look at that. And if I wanted to follow, and I understand I can't do it until a day has passed,
Yep.
but I could follow up and do whatever. Okay. And I could update the status to be like, no, I don't want this, or whatever the
Yep.
case might be.
And you
Okay.
can, if you want to see what you sent, you just click view.
View. There it is. Okay.
Cool.
Very easy. Okay.
Yep. We made it very simple.
And so I am assuming, and just want to double check. So when I'm recommending to my members on this, we always really want to start with podcasts, unless you have, you could start with associations, but if you don't have a lot of experience, the podcasts are really where you want to start, right?
Yep. You start there. Because they have to develop their messaging, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people have an idea until they get on stage. The worst time to remember that you don't know something or you're not that good at it or you haven't been questioned about it is while you're on stage. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we suggest going podcast first in order to streamline their messaging and to get better at different things. right? And if they don't have their messaging, if you click on branding kit at the top
Mhm.
and you go down to frameworks, it will allow them to create a master framework for themselves, work on their signature talk outlines, all of those things can be generated from here.
Oh, okay.
So go
So
ahead and click, yeah, go ahead and click that one and I'll show you.
let's just see.
And it's basically looking at, and there it is. It gave you the Empower framework.
Mhm. Is it kind of always the impact? How does this come about? Do they just sort of look at what you're doing?
Yeah, we looked at your bio and what you said, how you helped.
Because it does feel kind of like spot on. It feels very like good.
Yeah.
Okay,
And if you don't like it, hit rewrite. It'll do it again.
let's see. Ooh, yeah,
It'll
I'm
come
gonna
up with
I'm gonna
something else.
send the pitch. But I do love that it tells you what you're doing here.
Yep. So it's just rewriting it now and looking at different things. So now it shouldn't say empower, it should give you a different title. Um,
Okay. Oh, it's really thinking.
yeah, it's okay. I mean, AI is slow sometimes. It's a lot faster than me though. So,
Exactly.
but yeah, so eventually it'll answer that question after it gets done looking at everything. And then you'll have a different version of that framework. You can go in and click edit and type in whatever you want after that. Make sense?
And when we're in this content piece, when you go back to the branding kit, how do you act? So I see where it would be the frameworks, but all the pieces in that framework, how would like
They're going
is
to show up right here once they're
okay.
done.
All
Yep,
right,
just be patient with it for a second.
there we go.
There it is. So now I gave you the Inspire framework, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So just play around with it. You can't break anything. So, yeah, you can't break anything is the
And
key.
actually, this is even better. So good. All right, so that's that. And then, so I would just, so all this will show up under frameworks when I come back to it. Okay, and then I can copy and paste as I need to use it for whatever um space would be.
Yep, you can use it however you would like.
Okay.
Uh, Lawrence, what do they need their own subscription? If you're giving it to other speakers, yes. The speaker scholarship is designed for you and you only. If they are another speaker that wants a scholarship, they need to talk to us directly. So, and I'm just being clear because I know different speaker scholars. People say, "Well, my cousin want to use it for her thing." Your cousin need to pay for it. You have the scholarship directly with you, Lawrence. So don't risk your stuff because I'll kick all y'all off. Uh, I'm just being real with you. Don't let your cousin mess up your blessing. But no, your team doesn't have to pay anything. Your team, anybody that's on your team, they're on your account. But just be sure that they're using it to promote you, not to promote their own thing. If we go through and we see that someone is pitching for a business that's not for the person with the speaker scholarship, we will not only kick them off, but we're going to kick the person off too, because that's not what it's for, right? But I'm not saying this for Lawrence. I'm saying this for all of our speaker scholars out there. If you're under 21 and you are a speaker, we will give you access to SpeakerHub for free for you to use in your personal business, not for your auntie's business, not for your uncle's business. Your auntie and your uncle should be paying for their own stuff. They not 21, so they have to pay for the service. But so that's all I'm saying. But yeah, does that make sense, Lawrence? Okay. All right. And again, whoever's watching, I'm not picking on Lawrence. I'm just clarifying it for all of our speaker scholars that we don't want someone else. It's no different than if you got a scholarship to Harvard and your uncle started to go to class, you and your uncle gonna have problems. This just Speaker Harvard. You are just at Speaker Harvard, right? Um, Yep. So there's no way to filter for paid opportunities, Rebecca, because every speaking gig is negotiated individually.
Mhm.
So the same speaking gig that I would go to, and maybe do for free, someone else wouldn't be willing to take that gig if it wasn't paid, right? So
And
we let the speakers negotiate that on their own.
and one follow-up question, I don't want to hog the
Oh,
spot
no,
because
go
I know
ahead.
people have a lot of things. Um, do you recommend, or when people are setting their pricing, um, are people leaving money on the table to put a specific dollar amount, and should they always do ask for pricing, or do you find that if you put ask for pricing on your profile, event organizers just kind of glide over you because they don't want to like find out that you're way beyond what they.
I think that the pricing thing is all pricing advice is full of assumptions,
Mhm.
right? And the reason being is that there's no B2B or B2C, there's P2P. And every person is negotiating with another person, and each event planner will make up their own rules. There's nobody passed out a standardized rule for how to negotiate pricing or how to set pricing, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's the whole industry around pricing is just a bunch of assumptions and guessing
Okay.
that apply in some cases and not in others. Here's what I would do. I think the best thing that a speaker can do is get on the call and listen. Tell me about the event. Tell me how you think I can fit. Tell me what you were thinking, if you have a budget for it, things of that sort. Have a conversation with the person versus setting, I only show up for this amount, I only show up for that amount. Because they're going to lose to someone like me who's willing to pay for the stage. Like I got a 90% booking rate because I'll just buy a sponsorship. Right. And then now that whole speech is eliminated that they were going to pay someone for. Right. So I think it's better to talk to the event planner and then negotiate once you have more information. And you're that way you're negotiating from a position of strength versus having someone make a judgment before they even talk to you.
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can find about, well, your price should be this and you should do that. And you're like, dude, show me the last 5 times you did that. Well, there's one time. No, no. Show me where you do that consistently. Right? The consistency is what we look for. Does that make sense? Before we try
Very
to teach
helpful.
it, we just say, let's find a consistent way that everybody can do it. And everybody can hop on a call and listen.
Very
Got it?
helpful. Thank you.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's what we're here for. So, guys, this week we have been talking about lead gen and how do you learn more about how do you get paid at a speaking gig, even if it's a free gig. I have never been paid 5 figures to come show up and talk. The world knows it. I confess that. But I've made 6 figures from showing up to talk. They didn't pay me that up front, but I was able to sell from the stage to get that. Right? I did a small group with a mastermind. I was invited to go talk it to like 20 people in that mastermind. And it was just impromptu. Hey, man, heard about what you're doing. Can you hop on my call tomorrow night? And I'm like, sure, I'll hop on. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to talk about? And they're like, no, I know you do this thing. They need your system. I did that call, $40,000 on one call. I'm like, I didn't even think I was going to, there's only 20 people there. But if you got the right thing for the right people, it doesn't matter whether it's 20 or 2,000. I would rather be in a room of 20 people that are hungry for what I have versus being in a room of 20,000 that don't even know the problem that I address. Right? Because it's a different level of conversation. With one group, I can have a 5-minute conversation, like on Oprah. When you go on Oprah Winfrey, you have 5 minutes to talk about what you was talking about because she was reaching such a broad audience that didn't want to go that deep into your topic. Does that make sense? But when you make a YouTube video, you can go a little bit longer. When you go on a specific podcast, you can go on for 2 hours, like on Joe Rogan, right? 3 hours, people listen to those podcasts because he knows his audience, right? And they'll go deeper and deeper and deeper. 3 to 4 hours of a conversation about a topic. Your dog is mooning us. Or your cat is mooning us, right? But the ability to find the people who want to have those next level conversations with you is what the survey is about. Because if I would have gone into that room of 20 people and I didn't really know what problem I was solving for them, I probably wouldn't have sold anything. I've gone into rooms with people that I thought I understood who they were. I gave my talk and they didn't buy anything. And afterwards, I talked to the person who arranged it. I said, "Man, something was kind of off." And he explained to me, "Oh yeah, this group isn't the group for that. They were here for something else." But I figured, it would be good for them to be introduced to what you do. And I'm like, "Oh, well, I would have backed up a little bit and given them a little bit more context." So that listening thing that I'm talking with Rebecca about is really important to understand the audience before you go into that room so that you can be as effective as possible. Does that make sense? Because if Cardis tells me, "Hey man, you're gonna be in a room full of my frat brothers," cool, right? What do they do? Well, they used to be financial advisors. Even cooler. Where are they located? Oh, they located in the Midwest. Even cooler. So now I got three things I can talk about. Number one, I'm in a fraternity too. I know what fraternity he's in, so I know I can make a couple of little jokes and build rapport with them, right? They're financial advisors. I'm not currently a financial advisor, but I was for 20 years. So I got a little bit of context I could bring to that and talk about how you can use speaking as a way to get more financial advisory clients. And then I know they're in the Midwest. So now I can make Chicago versus St. Louis jokes or Chicago versus Cincinnati jokes, right? Based on our Midwestern values. But the context of understanding the survey, on those surveys, who should be talking the most? Who's that? You're going to mute. Everybody.
They should be talking the most.
Yeah. When you talk to an event planner, who should be talking the most?
They should.
They should, I guess.
They should. Yeah. You should be asking them questions. Let me teach you a fact of life. The person who asks the questions is in control of the conversation. So when you meet with an event planner, it's not a fight for control, but usually you can kind of get what you want out of it by learning to ask questions and listening more than pitching. And hey, watch me dance. Oh, I can do this too. And I can do that too. And they're like, this dude is nervous. His energy is off. Like, dude, if he come in there with this going to be, I think our people kind of find him immature, or he may not, he's trying to solve too many of our problems. We just wanted the person that can solve this one. Because I got this, and then I can give him my book, and then I can do this, and then I can show him this. And then if you want me to come back, I can come back and do all of that. Well, in the first meeting, that's not where you do that. That's why the survey is so important, because it's training you in a low-risk environment. It's teaching you a technique in a low-risk environment, right? So Valencia, I'm going to do the survey with you as an event planner.
Okay.
So you're going to be the event planner. Have you ever put together a conference?
No, not yet. No.
Okay. You plan on putting one together?
Sure. Yes.
Cool. So let's imagine your conference is coming up in 2026 and you're interviewing speakers.
Okay.
Right. So we're on our Zoom call. Right. And yeah, so you're the host. I'm on your Zoom call. Go ahead and start it off.
Okay. Well, what types of things do you speak about?
Okay. Yeah, no, Valencia, I'm glad that that we're able to hop on this call today. And I talk about how entrepreneurs can buy businesses easier than what they can start businesses, right? But before I get into a lot of detail about that, can you tell me a little bit more about the overall expectations of the conference and what you all are trying to accomplish on the back end?
Oh, okay. Well, this conference is about women empowerment, and we have people tuning in from all over the world, and we're looking for speakers that will inspire these women all over the world. Motivational speakers, inspiration. And a lot of these women are, of course, in business for themselves. So we are looking for any insight on products that you may have for that.
Cool. No, that's great. And is there a speaker that you're missing that you're like, dude, I need someone to cover this topic?
Is there a what now? Say it again.
A speaker on the agenda that you're missing where you're like, you know what, we got this person, we have this person, but I need someone to cover this topic. Is there a topic you're missing?
Yeah, I mean, because we have a lot of motivational, but like I said, these women are in business for themselves. So we need something a little bit more concrete, maybe some tools that will help them.
Okay.
We don't have
And
anyone for that.
what's an ideal topic you would want to have covered?
How they can just be more successful in their business.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Now, let's stop. Do you see the same techniques that are in the thing? I started really broad. I got a little narrower, and then I got it even more narrower. I've carved out a space for myself, like what's missing,
Right. Yep.
right? Now, who started the conversation?
I did, but
Yeah.
you started asking the questions, and so yeah,
It's my conversation after
you were
that.
driving it. So that was good. That was good.
I gave you my 10-second talk. Hey, I help speakers to do this. I help entrepreneurs to buy businesses instead of starting them. You know, can you tell me a little bit more of the bigger vision of the conference? I just gave them my 10 seconds and give me this. Give me this. Let me show you this, right? Now, here's the thing. The better we get at that, the better off we are. Now, I wasn't rude. It didn't feel like it was a rude transition. It was like, oh yeah, here's what I do. But tell me more about your conference. That now I got control. So she can't catch me off guard. And guess what? She's like, yeah, I ain't even, yeah, you would be great. Yeah, because I'm just going to tell you, I can either do what you want or I can't. It's really us choosing the conference. It's not whether the conference is going to choose me. I'm going to find my own space in that conference. But if I don't get good at doing the surveys and the technique of following how that works, it's just there for you guys to start practicing how you ask questions. If you can't explain what you do, it's proof that you're not very good at getting other people to tell you what you want. I mean, what they want. Because if you were, you would easily explain what you do better. Does that make sense? So it's like, oh, how do I get better? Well, I got to go over here and listen to all these people ramble. And it's going to drive me so crazy that I never want to ramble when somebody asks me a question going forward. Right? But you don't realize your tendencies until you see them in other people. So you learn to ask concise questions. You learn to get to the point. You learn to circle back. So now when I get on with the event planner, she going on and on and on. Cool. My call with the guy for the one gig I mentioned earlier, he was telling me about the conference. Cool, man. This is great. What you missing? Well, we got a lot of technical people. We got a lot of people doing this. We got a lot of people doing, coming from the analysis point. And I think the future of AI is this and that. And I said, okay, that's interesting. I think AI is a feature instead of the product. And he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, we have AI completely embedded in what we do, and you never feel like you ever interacted with AI. All you did was do the normal stuff you would do. And I showed it to him. He says, dude, I need you talking because the integrations where AI is just in it, it didn't feel like I was using AI. It just became a part of what you were doing. We need a speaker on that. Nobody else has done it this way. But if I wasn't listening and getting them to complain about the other speakers and the gaps, I couldn't fill that gap. He talked for the first 28 minutes we were on the call. I talked the last two, and he was like, yeah, I got you. You're in. Right? But if we haven't practiced listening, and we're always pitching ourselves. There's no more comfort than to get someone to recommend a service that they've never tried. That gives you Superman powers. I put on my cape. I get referrals from people like, this person ain't even seen what I do, but they trust me enough to give me other people to do it for them. Is this making sense? Why this survey is so important? That's why I said, hey, I need y'all to do it a little bit before you hop on the calls, because you would be able to identify with the feeling. Now, some of you haven't done them, and that's okay, but you'll be able to identify with the feeling as you get it now that I've described it. Because you're like, wait a minute. Oh, when I talk too much, they don't want to talk about it. But if I just let them go on. How many of you all have ever had someone say, man, it was great listening to you? Okay. Most people ain't never had nobody say that. When you're just in a one-to-one conversation, man, it was so good listening to you for 45 minutes, talk about yourself and your business. Nobody say that. But they always say, man, it was great talking to you. When they talked for the whole 45 freaking minutes, they always say, man, God, it was great talking to you. Yeah, you ain't let me talk. Right? So I've learned as a salesperson, the greatest compliment that I could ever get was, it was great talking to you, Ron. Because that meant that they talked more than me. And it was the first time they had been listened to all week. It was the first time they had been listened to about whatever issue they were dealing with ever. And who they asked to come back and help them solve it? Me. What do you think speakers are doing when they get on the meetings with the event planner? Speaking. They speaking. They performing. And this person's annoyed because they got to listen to 15 of these this week. They're like, oh, man, I don't want to hear this. Yeah. I know. You're a leadership coach. We heard that before, right? Like, it's so broad, right? So one of the best speeches on this is by a lady named Christy that spoke at the Pro Speaker Summit, and she talked about how listening, she has a company called The Listening Path. She talks about how listening is the secret weapon to speakers, that most speakers would be better speakers if they learned to listen more, because you can't speak on a topic that you haven't listened to a lot of people's opinions about. You can speak on it, but not effectively, because it's those things that touch the crowd, the things that you heard that nobody else heard. Does this make sense? So if we tie this back into the survey, that survey isn't about getting more leads. It is, but it's really about you. It's about who are we making you into. A lot of us, we're inexperienced, right? We're inexperienced. And we all start at that place, right? So, yeah, Uno reverse. I like that. I see. I've learned to open up the chat at the same time. So I'd be ignoring the chat, but now I figured out how to open it in the window so I can see what's happening in the chat while I'm talking. But here's the cool thing. And I think this is going to be a game changer. We talk about the speaker flywheel, and it gets wider and wider and wider, right? So at the beginning, you're an emerging speaker, right? And you can go on podcasts and associations, right? And then you're an experienced speaker. You got the podcast, the associations, and the conferences. And then you're an expert speaker. You got the podcast, associations, conferences, and press. But we really didn't have anything for the exploring speakers, those who are just kind of figuring out their product and their messaging. But that's where that survey comes in. Because now they get to explore, do I even really want to help people? Because if I don't want to help you one-on-one, I probably don't want to help you one-to-many. Does that make sense? Because Jadika had a conversation with one person when she realized she wanted to help people not take a bunch of medicine before she had the conversation with 100 people. It was a one-to-one. And she said, I don't like this. Man, and then somebody else brought up and said, girl, let me tell you what I figured. I figured if you pinch right here, your elbow tingle. And they was like, girl, let me try it. And she did it, and their elbow got hot. And she said, oh, I got something. We don't need no more icy hot. I got something. And then she did it with 5 more people. And then she realized if she do it over here, the ear start twitching. And she said, oh, I got 2 moves now. Right? But that's where it all starts. It starts with these one-to-one conversations that we have on an intimate level, and we get the insights that people would never bring up on this call. Right? Now, what most people don't know is that I intentionally text and call most of you all who show up on the call. Why? Because I know there's stuff you willing to talk to me about on a phone call that you would never bring up in this message, or on a one-to-one Zoom that you'll never bring up on this call. And that's where I win, because everybody else avoiding these conversations, right? Everybody else avoid them. I'm like, no, where you getting, Curtis? You got how many podcasts from where? What was the name of that group? When you speaking there, show it to me. I'm trying to find everything. He ain't gonna bring it up on here, right? But where you get that from? Janika, what you say you did? Show me the page. Bring it up. I want to see it. Like, I'm nosy. Why? Because I know the better I can get. I can't be offended that they may have found a better source. Yo, this over here is killing. Cool, show it to me. What can I learn from what they're doing? But if I'm not willing to have those individual conversations, does that make sense? That which is most personal is most general. That's a Stephen Covey quote. You know how much I care about it. That which is most personal is most general. So in order for me to figure out how I'm going to help everybody, I need to talk to somebody. 1 person, 2 people, 5 people, 6 people. So then my pitches start to ring. When I send the pitches, they like, dude, how does this do? I never thought about that. See, I realized something from doing, I don't know, 1,000, almost 2,000 surveys since the beginning of the year, that most people don't want to stop. I mean, most people don't want their last thing that they ever do is to be a speaker. Speaking is a bridge, but they don't want to admit that, because to admit that speaking is a bridge career, they have to admit that they don't have the other side connected yet. So every speaker that I've ever talked to that bragged about their speaking fees, it was because they didn't know how to make money the other way. I get paid to speak. I get paid this much. And I'm like, yeah, your other business sucks. This other person don't get paid to speak, but they make way more money than you as a terrible speaker. So your speaker fee becomes, I'm a better than you, because that's the only place that you win. It becomes a height measuring contest, as I like to call it, right? I'm taller than you because I get paid more to show up. So if you stop speaking for a year, you don't get paid. My little crappy speech generates money for a business that if I can't go, it still generates revenue. That's what we're trying to build. Stephen Covey, the guy that said that which is most personal is most general, hasn't said that in 13 years. Because he's dead. But that business did $290 million last year. That's a quote that I remember from when I first bought that course for $300 in 2000, 25 years ago. It still impacts me today. That's the power that you all have. If we can get you away from the height measuring contest, I'm a speaker at this level and I get paid this. Cool, be more impactful. Everybody that we like as a speaker we probably have never heard them speak live and in person. I've asked this question for 6 years, and nobody has ever told me, yep, I heard all 5 of them. Nobody has ever told me they've heard all 5 of their favorite speakers, but yet they're their favorite speakers because they got caught up in the flywheel. They heard them on a podcast. They saw them on YouTube. They read a book by them. They took an audio course from them. Somebody else quoted them. Is this making sense? We got to think bigger than this speaker thing. So, as we go into the weekend, I got 12 more minutes here. We'll keep going. As we go into the weekend, we got to think about the impact. How do the best speakers in the world, how do they even present themselves? Right? Let me show you. Let me show you what I mean by this. Right? So, everybody ever heard of Seth Godin? Right? How many of y'all have seen him speak live and in person? Nobody, right? You go to his webpage, this is his homepage here. What's the first thing he's talking about? Product. You got, this is strategy. Product. You got a course. He ain't nowhere on here he's saying speaker. He just uses speaking to promote. Makes sense? Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. See him on Shark Tank UK, all of this stuff. First word in his description, entrepreneur, never led with speaker. Right? Do you see him speaking? Yeah. But he does $2 million a year off this podcast, which is a way of him using speaking to promote his books, his conversation cards, and all these other things that he's building. Are you seeing the trend? Right? There's another guy, Anthony Robbins. What is he doing in the photo? Has the microphone. But what does button say? Start now. I bet he's selling something. Ready to take control of your life? Do a quiz, right? At the top, you see programs, events, coaching. Come on, man. Why are we limiting ourselves to this goofy stuff? I just want to tell my story, leaving so much money on the table. I had a question by my team today. We call SpeakerHub. Why are you trying to make them entrepreneurs? Because their favorite speakers are entrepreneurs. This is what my team asked me. We call SpeakerHub. We got to keep focusing on speaking. I'm like, that's a loser's mentality. All of the top speakers in the world are entrepreneurs. So we can keep our clients in this hype measuring contest of this person's better than me because they get paid more than me to show up. Or I can say, but look on the other side. You get paid more than them when you show up. What's more important? Getting paid to show up or leaving with more when you show up? I want the other side. I want to be more impactful. I want to make more impact. I can tell you that the person who speaks more for free impacts more people in volume because they're on more stages than the person that's saying, I'm only going to speak if they pay me, especially if they're not famous. Does that make sense? So make more impact, make more money, make more relationships, make yourself feel better. How about that? I've never seen a group of people that are motivational, that have the lowest self-esteem of all entrepreneurs because their motivation and what they're doing isn't being publicly validated. Don't nobody want to tell y'all that. You think it feels good to be a motivational speaker with 3 gigs a year? They hop on a call with me crying, begging for more opportunity because that's where they get their validation. But yet some idiot has told them to put a barrier in front of it called a fee. So now, not only are they poor, they're poor with low self-esteem. And then their friends say, man, I thought you was a speaker. How your little speaker business going? Y'all laughing because y'all know it's true. And then they got to come listen to me. And they like, dude, this dude, I like them, but I don't like them. Right? One of my friends, she gave me one of the best, crudest, worst insult compliments ever. Right? And this is crude, but I gotta explain because I got what she was trying to say. She said, "You're like a fart." And I was, what? She was like, "You're noisy. You're kind of annoying to people when they have their first impression of you, but you're necessary. If people didn't fart, we would die." And I said, "I get it. I kind of like that. I ain't gonna tell nobody this, but now I'm telling y'all." She said, "But that's kind of you. Like we get used to it. Like we come the first time, I can't believe somebody did this. And then we sniff it again. We know it stinks, but we sniff it again anyway. Look at Valencia done this. All of us have done it. You come back, you say, this dude is the toughest speaker coach I've ever talked with. He bears his soul, he shows everything, and I keep showing up because I know I need it. This is leadership. We got 63,000 people and 50 of y'all show up every day. Because some people don't want to know that their shit stinks too. But poop is fertilizer. That's what I was taught. When I lived at U of I, when I went to U of I lived in Muhammad, Illinois, I would smell the poop from the horse stables at U of I. But that's what made the grass grow. That's what made the corn grow. That's what made everything work. I'm just here to be fertilizer. I know I stink sometimes, but if you bear with me, you will grow. Does this make sense? So I'm just taking your idols and showing you that they were more than what we thought they were on the surface. Tony Robbins is a speaker. Les Brown is a speaker. Whoever. Lisa Nichols is a speaker. Yeah, okay. Keep believing that. That's what she wants you to believe, so you don't compete with her. Yo, show them this, but underneath is this. Facebook, it's a free social network. No, it's the FBI. They sell all your data. The biggest investor in Facebook was a guy named Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel runs the largest government espionage software company in the world called, I think it's called Plantix or something, Palantir. Watch this. Look. Palantir. What is it? Palantir, software company, big data analytics. It's the company that's running all the cameras, the stoplight cameras and all that stuff, and identifying you walking down the street in New York and analyzing the tolls that your cars go through. Look at matching you with your profile on Facebook. He was the biggest. See, we think that that's the business, but that ain't the business. Does that make sense? Like it's like, look over here, but we're over here. Right? You know, I mean, SpeakerHub is what's out there. That's what they think it is, but they ain't really our business. Right? That's just what we need people to see over here. But in reality, we got another business. Our business is changing lives. It's getting y'all paid in a whole nother way. People think we get people paid from speaking gigs. We do, but not up front. We get you paid on the back end. Right? The average speaker lasts 9 months before they quit on the industry. You know why? Because they made $9. If I can show you how to make 9,000, at least you're willing to stay around hoping it can turn to 90. Right? So that's our goal. Is this making sense why I went through this whole thing with the surveys? It wasn't about the surveys, guys. It was teaching you all we got to be better listeners. And if we're not very good on a one-to-one basis, the lessons that we learn there, we can't take to the one-to-many stages that we're trying to get on and be impactful, right? It's that when you listen to that speech, you say, this dude figured it out. Yeah, because they spent a bunch of time with a bunch of folks asking the questions that nobody else was asking. You ever heard of a speak leader? Never, right? Yeah, they call it thought leaders, which means you got to do some data analysis to get the new thoughts. But everybody just want to speak, speak, speak. Quit talking and listen. Go listen to your individual customers. Build a business around them. Do some cool shit, and then go talk about the cool stuff you did with them. Right? Bonnie's the anxiety avenger. As she talks with more people that have anxiety and how they deal with it, she's going to have a data set that's unique to Bonnie. So then when she goes to the stage and she says, I know the truth about this thing. I found out this one thing led to this thing, and it was a chain reaction. We have been looking over here all the time. We found out it was actually this. Does this make sense? And then some people are going to be like, man, they're going to throw tomatoes at her. Oh, that ain't true. Well, this ain't this ain't that. And then somebody's going to say, well, I'm willing to try it out. And they try it out and they say, no, what she said is true. First testimonial. Another person does it. Second testimonial. Here's all of us right now why we need this. Here's the thing. The survey is this. And then we're going to close it up for today. The survey is this. Let me share my sound. This is the survey. This is all of us.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
How dope is that? Right? So I appreciate you guys for being our first followers. We invite everybody to these calls. Not everybody shows up.
Are you calling us the first nuts?
Huh?
Are you calling us the first nuts?
Hey man, you call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. I was told it don't matter what they call you, it matters what they answer to. So, but I appreciate you all trusting us here at SpeakerHub. Why? Because someone is going to ask you someday, man, how did you become a speaker? Or how did you get more speaking gigs? Or how did you get on this podcast? And your answer will be, I followed this long nuts, this idiot that was dancing, saying send emails and talking about TikToks, and he showed me how to do it. But what we do has to be simple enough for you to be able to do it on a regular basis with courage, right? So start your own movements. There are people here who are looking to follow you that are in our group. There are people in the group who want to be better leaders. There are women in the group who want to be better speakers. There are young people in the group who want to follow another young person that's ahead of them. There are people in the group who want to put on conferences. There are people in the group who want to get better fitness-wise. But if you never ask, now, this whole talk today was inspired by a conversation I had with Darren, who isn't here. Darren needs people in his leadership thing. And I'm like, dude, you know, what's going on with your course? He says, well, I haven't got anybody to try it yet, so I don't have any testimonials. I'm like, dude, make a post online so that people can come in the group and ask them. You got all these people in the group you haven't asked that want to get to their certain goals. You've done it at a higher level. But man, I'm new. Darren, get up out of here with that. I ain't dealing with that. It's 6:30 in the morning and we on a call. This was at 6 o'clock this morning, right? It was inspired by that because it was like, wait a minute. We don't believe we're big enough to follow. But it's not that you need to be what's a leader? If you saw a group of people walking down the street and you saw somebody 5 steps ahead, would you assume that they're the leader? Yeah. A leader is just a few steps ahead of everyone else. The drum major in the front of the band with the trumpets and the drums, he's a few steps ahead, right? You know who's in front of the drum major? The band instructor. He's just on the side, right? The band instructor is on the side, but he's in front of the drum major. Make sure the drum major is still doing what he needs to do. But you know who's in front of the band instructor? The marshal of the parade. So everybody is following somebody. The question is, who you gonna lead? So just get out there. Just get out there. You're gonna be fine. Right? So my thing to Darren was, Darren, just get 5 people so that you can teach them your stuff, so you can get some testimonials. Take those 5 people, give them your best stuff, help them. And then it makes it so much easier because they were your first followers. And I'm like, oh, we ain't got that part yet. That's why we don't want to do the surveys, because we think we need to be perfect. No, you don't need to, you just need to be willing. Be willing to see if you can actually help the person who answered the survey. Just 5 steps down the street, Bonnie. Your anxiety don't have to be gone. You just got to be able to cope with it a little bit more than the person that you're leading. Y'all heard me cuss the other day. I said some words I shouldn't have said. You think I wasn't showing up today? Psh, whatever. Whoever don't like it, don't come back. Right? But we can edit that. My flaws can't stop me from leading. Does that make sense? So understand that this ain't about you. You're not the character. You're the guide. Again, you're not the main character of the story. Your client is. You're the guide. You're just there to guide them along. Some of my best advice in life came from neighborhood crackheads. The neighborhood alcoholic gave me some of the best advice. Not because he wasn't qualified. It was because he didn't need to be perfect to tell me the truth. He didn't. You know, when I drink too much coffee and I talk to my daughter, she's 3, Says, Papa, tú necesitas cepillo tu dientes. She basically tell me, you need to go brush your teeth. She ain't wrong. I'm smarter than her. But I've been drinking coffee all morning. Of course, she like, dude, get off of me. Right? Is she not qualified to tell me the truth because I'm older than her? I'm smarter than her. I make more money than her because she's 3. Is she not qualified to lead in that situation? What she's trying to do is to prevent me from talking to somebody that may not have the same courage to tell me that same truth. That's leadership at any age. Does that make sense? So wherever you are, be that leader. Sometimes you're going to be a fart. You're going to repel some people away. But if they really know that they can grow with you, they'll stick around. Janika.
I just want to say, Ron, what you have been sharing with us actually works. I was late coming on today because I was on a podcast. And the podcast I was on, the woman in particular had been listening to all of the other podcasts that I have been on. And that's how she conducted her interview with me. And it was when you and I had the conversation about, branding yourself, and just the fact that she listened to my podcasts and listened to me being interviewed by other podcast hosts was very re-encouraging in terms of what you're saying, stepping out there. And when you opened up just now talking about listening, and that's been the focal point of the work that I do, because the first healing touch is listening. And that's the first touch to healing begins with listening. So you're on point in terms of everything that you share with us. And if we just grasp it and put it into practice, it works. So it's trickling down. It's actually happening. In addition to the fact that even PR people are coming to me with their guests to be on my podcast. And these are some really top-notch presenters and speakers want to be on my particular podcast. So all I can say is SpeakerHub is where you're supposed to be.
High five. I appreciate that. I appreciate Janika. Janika is truly a first follower. Janika bought her lifetime membership from us in July when you couldn't even sign up for the software. She didn't even get to try it. She just bought it based on the video and knowing that it solved a problem, right? Because at the beginning, we introduced it, I think June the 30th, but they didn't get access to it. They saw a video of me using it. They didn't get access to it until they met with me and we went through everything, which was maybe sometimes 2 or 3 weeks later. So she made the investment without even seeing it because she said, I trust what they're trying to do. I know what I've been doing. This seems to solve that problem. So I appreciate you, Janika, and everyone else who was one of the first people who, AJ, Kevin, who's been with us from the beginning, and watching this thing grow and watching it get better and watching it, the momentum of what we're doing. So, we're here, whether you're in the UK like Leroy or, if we got to keep pushing you a little bit like Bonnie every day, I'll be like, let me just go a little further. It's not going to bite you. That's part of it. So Bonnie, you want to go ahead? I have 3 minutes before my next call. So let's go ahead and we'll close out after Bonnie.
Okay, I got 1 minute. So, yeah, I'm getting there, and I am the step by step, not the jump in the cannonball pool. However, you just reminded me of something that really was helpful. I'm not shy. Okay, I've dealt with anxiety in different levels. I am not a shy person. In the airport, you go and fly somewhere. You're in the airport. Everybody's sitting. They're kind of flopped out. They're eating their McDonald's bag. They're looking depressed and maybe reading a book on the computer. I'm over on the side working out and stretching before I get on the plane. And a couple of times people have come up to me, hedged a little bit. And then, can you show me how to stretch before I get on? I'm like, yeah. And then I get a couple other people, and pretty soon there's a few little people in the corner taking care of themselves instead of just sitting there waiting for whatever. So I'm going to use that as I go forward because it's very powerful. Thank you, Ron, for today. It's awesome.
No, that's incredible. No, that's, again, let me tell you how bad I am with words. Sometimes I use the wrong words at the wrong times when I'm referring to the same things. So I know I wasn't calling you shy. I'm not good with a lot of the emotional words. I'm good with like the words that are like, did you do it? Yes. Did you didn't do it? No. Right? When it's like, well, it's shy and bashful. I don't know what the difference between those two words are.
Well, that's what we count on you for, just being there. But that's something that came up in a conversation with me yesterday about a guy who's writing a book about shyness, and we were talking about introversion, anxiety, and shyness are not the same. And one person has one of those situations; they don't necessarily have the others. But thank you for who you are. You're the best fertilizer ever. I love you.
That's it. Look at that. Look at that. Did she just call me a turd?
Exactly what she's doing.
Oh, that's so funny. No, but I think that her example in the airport is incredible, right? Because there's always somebody watching you, right? There's always somebody not just watching you. We think somebody watching us, they're being critical. There's somebody watching us being inspired. They're like, man, I'm that person. Man, I wish I could stretch. Man, I don't have the courage to go. You think they'll help me, right? Man, I want to be a speaker. I want to write a book. I want to be on more podcasts. I want to do a conference someday. I want to learn about this, but I just ain't never had nobody to help me. Are they approachable, right? Are they gonna look at me like I'm a fool, right? But that's the great thing about being a speaker. We've chosen to be approachable. We've chosen to share our words. We've chosen to share our books and our methodologies. You can't be an influencer and get upset when you influence people. I had somebody write a whole blog post about one of our calls as if it was theirs. I'm like, you was in our call. You just took this out of our call and put it over here. But it's okay. I influenced them. I can't be like he, she, they, them. Let me mix up the pronouns so y'all know who I'm talking about, right? I can't be upset that somebody was influenced by our conversation that we had here. That's the whole point. I can't be an amplifier of the voices of speakers and get mad when they amplify their voice. Right? So we're called to be influencers, guys. We're called to help people with our words and our intellectual property. Let's help more. Let's make it easy for them to share our stuff. Let's make it easy for them to amplify our messages. Because the ones who see it say, oh yeah, Ron talked about that just the other day. And I remember that's cool. It ain't negative. That's cool. I shared it. I said, look, guys, we are having the impact we thought we were going to have. Because this ain't a little person. This person is huge in the minds of some people. So be impactful. That's my call to action for the day. Keep being who you are, but make it easier for people to follow you. But also, the only way you can do that is if you get out and you start having those conversations and developing your thought leadership so you can take it to a larger stage. All right. I hope you all have a great weekend. Thanks for the time. This has been good. We got a lot of cool stuff we're going to do in 2025. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.